What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to season 7 of the Surf and Sales podcast. Richard Harris here, one of your co-hosts, along with my good friend, Mr. Scott Leese, who is back in Texas after a quick visit to Northern California, where he didn't even visit me. So
There's only so much you can do on these quick strike missions. You
I
know?
understand, and let's face it, your mom was needing a little bit of extra help around the house. How's she doing?
Yeah, she's doing okay. This
Yeah,
she's recovering. She's recovering. So if she's listening, thinking about you and sending you some love, mom.
as oh, I thought you were
She
saying
probably
she
will
was
be
thinking
listening,
about
by the
me.
way.
Right, exactly.
She's always listening to the show. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hi, good to talk to you. One day, Scott will let me meet you. I think after 15 years. So,
All right, let's get into it. We've got
yeah,
a quick little episode today. We're going to do about 20, 30 minutes or so. We've got at least three topics that we want to dive into. We've kind of chatted about. You want to kick off yours first? It's kind of fun.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
fun.
I was thinking a little bit about how we all use ChatGPT or Claude, whichever you prefer, and we're always looking for competitive differentiators, right? And I decided to go do a competitive differentiator between Scott Lease Consulting and the Harris Consulting Group.
All
And see,
right.
just see what the internet says. And part of this isn't just for the fun of it, because it is a little funny, but also for, I'm going to bring up some things that differentiate me from Scott, and Scott's going to have to figure out how he would actually respond to this. Because how
Okay.
often do we practice this part, right? We practice a lot of things. We can practice our competitor battle card, but how well are we at it? And do we just sound scripted? And do we just sound like, yeah, but, yeah, but here's what you should know, right? Like, I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
happens a lot. And this is something I teach as well, as I'm sure you do too. Um, so anyway, so we're gonna kick one off. Um, so this is the first thing it said and I use Claude, by the way. And the first thing it said was who they're selling to. Scott Lease founded with a concentration of on companies growing from 0 to 25 million ARR. This is from G2, by the way. His buyers are almost always the founder or CEO and not a sales manager or an enablement leader or a VP of sales. Me, Richard Harris, Consulting Group, sales team, frontline managers, VPs of sales at companies that already have a team. Your buyer is typically further right on the maturity curve, meaning Scott's focusing on that early stage. I'm focusing on a slightly more mature curve, which is unusual because usually Scott's the more mature one of the two of us. So, this is what it says. I should say there's minimal overlap, different buyers entirely at most companies.
I
Would
think that's pretty
agree?
accurate. I
That
think
one's
that's
pretty
pretty
accurate.
accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is the one where it gets more interesting.
Okay.
What do they actually deliver? Right.
What do they do?
Yeah. What do we do? So Scott is a GTM strategy, fractional rev ops, and advisory for founders and revenue leaders, according to your own website. It's strategic and structural, building the machine from scratch. Richard, you have neat selling, specific proprietary teachable methodology focused on rep behavior and managing and coaching. You train people how to sell, not just what to build. Scott can build a house, but you teach people how to live in it.
Interesting. Interesting. Hmm.
But I know you well enough to know that you teach people how to live in it to a
Yeah,
degree.
I do. Maybe it's just not down the line as much as you.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I'm typically working with people for 6 months or so, and
Right.
I got to kind of build the foundation and then build the house, and
Yep.
get into some of the like tactical stuff
Yep.
and how do I live in the house, to your point. But you sort of start in the house
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
so it doesn't surprise me that Claude is interpreting things that way.
Yeah. Here's another one. This one's on methodology. This one gets funny, actually, I think. Um, Scott Lease, no name proprietary sales methodology, services a span of people, process, and infrastructure, recruiting, LinkedIn execution, scripting, messaging, sales ops, data audits, broad and generalist. Richard needs selling is a distinct defensible IP asset. It's something a buyer can point to, train, and hold their team accountable to tool. This is my biggest differentiator. You have no equivalent.
No, I do have the equivalent. Okay, my rebuttal would be I have the equivalent. I just didn't trademark it, which is, my own failure, I suppose.
I wouldn't
But
call it a
I
failure.
think I think my addiction selling methodology and process is, in line with what you're talking about with neat selling. It's the same kind of thing. It's uniquely mine. I don't know anybody that talks about it the way that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be
I wouldn't
that's my
disagree.
rebuttal. My rebuttal
All
would
right.
be I should have filed trademark
Yeah. But you don't do legal
stuff.
shit.
No, I don't. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Although you've gotten
Yeah.
into the technology world. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Maybe I'll tell my agent to go trademark all my stuff finally.
yeah, an agent.
Try to
Right. Okay.
trademark my voice and likeness.
Yep. Yep. All right. This is a funny one called Credentials. Scott Leese is a three-time winner of top 25 inside sales professional by ISP, American Association of Inside Sales, three-time author, experience scaling 12 unicorns and 11 exits, according to LinkedIn. Me, I'm a five-time sales leader, five-time AAISP sales leader, and five-time Salesforce influencer to follow. I actually have more AAISP and Salesforce recognition. This is where I can legitimately out-credential you everywhere.
Mm. This is where I say there's a trophy for everything these days, I suppose. And how much do they really mean? How much do they really mean?
Right. That's
There's
great.
one of those credential opportunities I opted out of after
Right.
a few years that I didn't feel like
I think that's the best
serving
rebuttal, though.
anymore.
Like, yeah,
There's a
I
trophy
just
for
blame that
everything.
there's a yeah. Thanks to the trophy culture.
Yeah,
This is
trophy
this is the
culture.
last one.
All right.
This is something I think you're actually going to walk away from, and I kind of wish I didn't tell you this one because I think you'll go do it.
Uh-oh, I got to do something now.
Yeah, the real gap to exploit. Scott's profile has been inactive on G2 for over a year and only has 638 LinkedIn company followers. His brand is built around him personally, not a transferable framework. When a company outgrows the startup phase and needs to train 20 to 50 reps on a repeatable methodology, Scott doesn't have a clean answer for that. You do, Richard. The sharpest
Congrats, Richard.
position, yeah, the sharpest positioning move. Own the space where you hired the GTM consultant. Now it's time to actually train your team to sell. That's what I should do. That's how I should differentiate you. That's a natural next stage from buyer for anyone already worked with someone like Scott. So anyway, so that was just sort of like the point being is that we all run into competition. We all have been told not to bash the competition. And actually, I'll give a lot of credit to Scott. One of the things Scott has taught me, and I teach people too, is I can't remember if this was Leapfish or somewhere else, but you once said something of like, well, let me tell you, or not, well, let me tell you, Scott, would you like to hear why people have chosen me over Scott Lease Consulting? Right, which is a great way to differentiate your competitor without bashing them.
Yeah.
And if you have the right stories, it works because nobody's going to ever say no. And
there's a big difference between me saying, excuse me, big difference between me saying, don't work with Richard. Excuse me. I can't even get the rebuttal out.
Exactly. I don't work with Richard.
Yeah.
That's what Scott's saying.
Big difference between saying, don't work with Richard, he's not good or whatever, and saying, well, let me tell you what I hear. Let me tell you what I heard. Let me tell you what I've been told. Let me tell you why somebody left ChatGPT for Claude. Let me tell you why somebody left Salesforce for HubSpot. This is what I keep hearing. But it doesn't seem like as personal of attack. It's secondhand information.
So let me ask you a question. You said it you said it one way. I say it a different way. And we're riffing here, so you may change it, right? You said, well, let me tell you why people have done this. My version of that is, hey, would you like to hear why people? Because in my opinion, I'm trying to get them to lean in.
I don't do it that way.
Why?
Yeah, you're asking.
What?
Well, to me, you're asking for permission, which
Mm-hmm.
is a little bit timid and a
Mm-hmm.
little bit like I'm I feel subservient and like
Mm-hmm.
I'm begging and asking this person to please let me explain something to you. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that. I don't like that dynamic. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I'm not in control. So I'm not asking
Mm-hmm.
for permission. I'm just going to tell you.
Straight up.
So
All right.
that's why.
Well,
That's why. That doesn't mean that I'm right. I know there's a lot of people who believe in permission based kind of selling. I don't,
yeah.
which is why I'm not operating that way.
Which is also why you never went and got a trademark. You don't need permission for a trademark.
I don't need permission. I just demand it already.
Right. Which by the
uh,
way, is a big differentiator in us, I think personally too. Like we each have unique ways of doing things in life, and I think that's also why
sure.
we're good partners because we can have this conversation. And for what it's worth, because I know we're going to segue into this next topic, so I'll go ahead and bring this up. Um, this is why it's always good to have a partner that you can bounce off of that doesn't
Yeah.
think exactly like you, right? If
Yeah.
you're always
Yeah.
working with people who think like you, then you're going to get stuck in that bubble, right? You're going to get stuck in the Facebook, only see the shit I want to see, politics or life or
Yeah.
things. And I remember there was one time came to visit you in Austin and you were going to do your cryo chamber and we were sitting there and this is before I started consulting and I was like, dude, I'm getting to these fourth or fifth interviews, right? But I just can't seem to get over the hump. Do you remember this conversation at all?
Vaguely.
Vaguely, yeah.
Vaguely.
And I was just like, what? I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong, And I think the advice at that point was something along the lines of, well, you know, are you qualifying the person you're talking to understand what they want to get out of the conversation? Or are you just coming in to present? Because usually by like the fourth interview, you're like with the team, you're not with the managers, right? And I think you
Yeah.
nailed it when you said, you aren't really asking them, well, what are you looking for in a manager? What makes it good for you? What makes you want to follow somebody or
Mm,
work for somebody? I think that was the advice you gave me.
yeah.
But this now segues into our next topic. But anyway, we hope you
Sounds
like the
segues into our
topic on
next
this.
topic.
Yeah.
Segues into the next topic, which is the continuing saga of Richard's application to ChatGPT to try to
Yeah.
be on the sales team.
Yeah.
What has there been any movement, Richard? Has there been any movement?
Just disappointment.
Oh no.
But
Okay. Well, we know that you need to get a referral in there is what you need.
that's
So
probably true.
that's the next move, I think,
Yeah.
is comb their LinkedIn page, find the people who are in the hiring positions and the CRO and all that kind of thing. See who you know that knows them, and let's see if we can't get you a direct intro.
Well, it's interesting because I think it's funny because you know me, I tend to follow rules a little too much, right? And I
Yes,
think there are
I'm aware.
lots, yeah. And I think this happens to a lot of people when they're applying. And we're going to get into some other things um, around this, but I can't remember if it was this one or Claude or Perplexity because I was looking at all of them. And I'm just doing this as an experiment. Although the salary is around 300 grand. So like I might, if they hired me, I'd probably have to consider 300 grand. It's like, it's a lot of money to turn down.
Be kind of
But
be kind of fun and interesting
yeah,
to
yeah.
to work there actually as well.
But I can't, one of them said, don't reach out to people on LinkedIn. Don't reach out to HR people. Don't, don't use a chat GPT or a Claude to write your resume, right? Which I actually like because it sort of forced me. Um, but yeah, the update is I've gotten no response. And the initial response was if we find something relevant, you know, then we'll get in touch with you. So the
Yeah,
unique
that's
challenge, right? I've been consulting for 13 years, right? I've got a list of 100 plus companies, thousands of sales reps over my career that I've interviewed, multiple hundreds that I've hired. I've written a book on how to sell, right? You can say all that out loud, but how do you get it in a resume, right? Because I have no quote unquote management experience of running a team in the last 14 years other than in small doses, right? Or teaching leaders. So it was a very interesting exercise in writing a resume. I haven't had to write a resume in 15 years, right? 16
Yeah.
years. So it was a unique challenge, which I'm not giving up on. Like, okay, I should probably know how to do this. It's good exercise, right? So anyway, so advice, Scott. What do you got?
Well, first of all, I would throw out the advice and the rules of like don't contact people on LinkedIn and don't message people and all that. That's old, antiquated advice. I mean, if I was actually trying to get hired at OpenAI, the first person that I would talk to would be Alyssa Rosenthal, who was the global head of sales there for 3+ years. She recently left, but I'm connected with her on LinkedIn. I've interacted with her before. That'd be the first person that I would talk to and say, hey, I know you've moved on, but I'm sure you still know people over there, and who are the right people to talk to, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's like no brainer move for me. And then I'd see who else that I knew. So if you're, wanting to pursue this exercise further, that is definitely a move that I would do. So that'd be partly part of my advice.
So let me ask you a question on that. So, because I think this is what happens for people, and um, I agree with you. Do I reach out to Alyssa and say, per Scott Lee's recommendation, or do I have Scott reach out on my behalf?
Um, it great question. Let me think about this for a second. So I would what I would do if I was you is I would go to her profile, for example. Assume I'm not connected to her, I don't know. And I would try to see who we have that are mutual connections. So I would go to those mutual connections and say, do any of you know her well enough, that you could get a response from her, or you could put something on her radar? I'm trying to look for a role. Would love to have a chat with her. And so I'd wait to see who felt confident enough that they could do that. Um, and then I would wait for them to say, hey, yeah, I pinged her, let her know that you'd be reaching out or what have you. Or I'd ask for an introduction and, have the mutual connection broker that quick introduction.
All right,
So
so let me ask you the next
that's how
question.
I would do. That's how I would do it.
So the next
Right.
question is Scott Leese or somebody else does this reach out. Scott
Yeah.
doesn't hear back from her in 48 hours, 72 hours. And I
Even
pinged because
after
it's my
even after the referral.
right. So let's
Okay.
because you have a
So I haven't heard
relationship
back
with
for
her.
48 hours.
Right.
Okay.
And now here's the first thing is it's my job. It is incumbent upon me as a candidate to reach back out to Scott in 48 hours, not wait for Scott to get back to me and say, hey man, I haven't heard from you. I haven't heard back from her. Right. Like if I'm
Yeah.
asking Scott for a favor, I got to stay on top of it. Right.
Yes, that's
Now,
correct.
48, 72 hours later, is that the right time? And B, then do I say, I go direct and say, hey, per Scott Lease, or do I go get another referral in?
Well, I would probably do all of the above, but I'm a
Okay.
psychopath. If I really
Right.
wanted to work there, I would do all the above.
Okay.
So I'd hit him. I'd hit the DM myself. I'd ask for a different person to try an intro, and I'd ask for the referring person to also try to get back in touch with them.
Got it.
So
Next
I'm going
question.
all in.
Yeah. Next question. And this goes backwards a little bit. When I ask Scott for a referral or anybody, what message am I writing to Scott and say, Scott, will you please deliver this message? Because again, I'm asking for the favor. I do not need to make someone like Scott or me, if you ask me for a referral, do the work, right? I should have a message that says, hey, Scott, I was thinking you could send this to her if you're comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
Now, Scott could tweak it, but
Yeah.
don't make
Yeah.
Scott do the work.
No, yeah, I agree with that 100%. My note would be something like, you know, hey, Alyssa, super interested in the strategic account executive role posted over there. Would love to talk. I'm sure you have thousands of resume submissions on your desk. I'm just trying to cut through the noise and cut the line a little bit. Would love to chat. My good friend Scott can vouch for me being, decent candidate. Something like that.
You know what's going to happen? Oh my goodness. I just got a message back from her saying, I am fully disconnecting with Scott because you mentioned my first and last name on the podcast.
Hey,
Maybe next time we go for someone's name. Yeah, maybe.
it's public information. Why would she be mad? Anyway,
Uh,
maybe she's gonna get too many DMs now. But that's the move. I don't care if it's
right.
that company or any other company.
Right.
Pick
And
a
look, and the
different
worst
company.
thing.
I would do the same thing. If you listen, if you're trying to get hired at Qualia when I was running
Oh,
sales
yeah.
over at Qualia, which is a multi-billion-dollar unicorn right now, right? Um, the right move would be to somebody that I know messages me and says, "Hey, you should check out the resume that just came in from this guy Richard. I can vouch for him. He'd love to work there." I'm paying attention to that,
Yeah.
and if I'm not dealing with it myself, I'm pushing it on to my hiring manager, my recruiter, or sales manager, or somebody, and saying, "Hey, see if you find a resume for this person. Somebody that I know is vouching for them. I think they might be worth conversation." That one's getting special attention. That's the right move. That's the
All
right
right.
way to try to go about getting a job right now.
Cool.
All right. Now,
Let's shift it. I know you had
what
a
you're
point
gonna
of
run
view.
into, what you're gonna run into. I'm just gonna skip ahead, right?
Mhm.
And you kind of asked about this a little bit of, well, I haven't run a sales team in 14 years, so it depends a little bit of whether you're going for an individual contributor role, which that feels easy to me. You could say, listen, I've been prospecting and
Mhm.
closing deals on my own, running full cycle for 14 years as a consultant. That's a skill that I've been using the whole time. Leading a sales team, I have not been using that in 14 years. I think that's probably at this type of company going to be damn near impossible to land like a leadership role when you've been that far removed. If you were going to an earlier stage startup, I don't think it would be impossible at all. But a big, huge company, my guess would be it'd be impossible to go straight into leadership, much more realistic to go straight into an individual contributor type role. So the story, I think, and this is very relevant for people who are facing a reality right now where their entrepreneurship or solopreneurship journey has come to an end, or they can't make the ends meet the way they used to. And I know a lot of these people who have folded up tent and are now taking AE roles or seeking VP
Mhm.
roles again. And they have to figure out a way to tell this story. Like, what happened?
Mhm.
Why are you interested in working, a W-2 job again? Right? So how do you navigate telling that story? So I pose the question to you. This is like interview prep for you. Well, Richard, you've been doing this for 14 years. Like, why are you looking to step away? And why do you want to come work for us, XYZ company?
I think the true answer is I want to dive in harder into the AI stuff. Like, I love being on the cutting edge. Every company I've been a part of was always the cutting edge. And this is too new to ignore.
But why can't you
It's
do
too
that on your own? Why can't you do it on your own? Why go work and have a boss and be told what to do and have a quota and activity
I've never
metrics?
minded that. I've actually always liked that.
Wait.
I
Are you trying to tell me that you have always loved having a boss? Is that what I just heard you say?
in this interview, and if I sounded really sincere, then it tells me I'm saying
Oh, okay,
answering it
okay,
right.
okay.
So
Okay, good. All right, good.
it's like
In
I've
the
always
interview,
enjoyed
you'd say,
that.
in the
Yeah.
interview, you'll say that. Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm always
Yeah.
looking for great leadership. I think it's a fantastic organization and a fantastic time. Look, I was around when the first internet
Okay.
came out, when the internet, all it really was your freaking brochure. You couldn't even sign into
Mm-hmm.
Wells Fargo. And that stuff has always intrigued me. I did it again. And, 10 years later, when APIs were all the rage, and it's time to do it again.
Do you think people should at all just be transparent and be like, listen, I was running my own business for the last few years. I did pretty good and it just got really hard and I can't sustain it anymore.
I think so. I think
Too
there's a
much
difference.
information?
I think you have to read the room.
Mm,
Right. And I think that these interviews are going to be very different if you go into an
yeah.
Anthropic or an OpenAI. You've got to read the room. I think it's very different if you're 2 years in. And I think it's a very fair statement. Let's say you've been doing it for 2 or 3 years. It's like, look, you know, things started to drop out a couple of years ago and people asked for me for help. And it was a great way to make money. Right. It was a little bit harder to get jobs. The technology's so different. and people are hiring again. So it's time for me to go back.
Yeah, good. I
Like
think that's a good.
that,
I think that's a good way. I think that's a good way to convey the narrative and to tell the story.
yeah.
I
I
think
can't
people are
say
going to have
that
to do
as
it.
someone who's been doing it for 13 years. Then I look slimy.
Yeah, but for other people who've only been doing it for a year or two,
Yeah.
they sort of gave it a shot and they did what they could do, and
The
yeah,
economy
I think
tanked.
it's the
So
right
I had to
way.
do
Yeah,
something.
I think that's the right answer. Combination of all that. So now you've heard it. How to go about getting in front of these people and trying to cut the line a little bit. Richard's going to try to do this a little differently
Yep.
this coming week. We'll see if we get an update, and then how to tell that story if you're somebody that left W2 work to work for yourself and now you're considering or having to go back into the W world. That's how you should tell that story. So,
Yeah.
quick little hopefully constructive and helpful exercise for people, and also
Yeah.
pay attention to how these LLMs are telling your story for you. And if
Yes.
any of that information is inaccurate, you're going to have to do some work to try to retrain them and get information to be accurate in there.
Yes,
Right.
you
I
are.
don't want the LLMs telling stories about me that aren't true, or
Yeah.
describing the work that I do in a way that isn't true anymore or whatever. So
Yeah.
don't ignore this stuff.
Yeah.
Don't
Agreed.
ignore it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right
So,
on.
all right. Another excellent episode. If you haven't, we want to know why. Email Scott Lease at scott.lease at
Scott at
gmail.com.
surfandsales.com.
Scott at Surf and Sales, and tell him why you haven't come to Surf and Sales yet.
Yeah.
Because it's coming up in November of 2026. It's an
Yeah.
excellent time. It is, as we like to say, it is a no assholes kind of event. We've never had to kick someone out, but we tell people all the time that we will gladly do so. And it's definitely not a bro drunken fest. So don't worry about that too, because it's not that kind of event. So
I don't think people
we
worry
want to
about
see
that
you.
though. A
A couple of people
I never get that objection. You only get that objection because
I
that's your
know.
image. Your image
That's what I
is
mean.
the drunken bro. That's why.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I'm a tech bro. And
Yeah.
by the way, that doesn't mean men anymore, apparently. So but that's a
Oh,
whole
really?
other conversation.
That's a
So
whole
that's
other
another
topic.
episode.
All right. We'll see you
All
all
right.
next time on the next episode of the Surf and Sales Podcast. I'm Scott Leese. That's Richard Harris. Have a good week, everybody.